Pope Leo has begun an official visit to Spain and stepped into Spanish politics by urging an end to polarization. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has been fighting a series of corruption allegations and sinking popularity, fueled in part by Spain's highly charged political atmosphere.
Pope Leo about to set foot on Spanish ground for the first time as the head of the Catholic Church. His trip will feature another first. On Monday, Leo is set to hold the first ever papal speech to the Spanish Parliament. But the first to greet the Pope on Spanish soil were the country's Catholic monarchs. Spain is politically divided. The socialist-led government is in crisis, and the legislature is highly polarized. At a reception with Spain's royals, Pope Leo addressed that issue.
Today, the temptation to gain popularity by fanning the flames of polarization seems to have grown rather than diminished, and human dignity continues to be violated. I invite everyone to set aside the divisive and polarizing narratives of your societal reality and history, so as to overcome sterile simplifications through the fruitful appreciation of complexity.
For Spain's embattled Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez, the Pope's message could have been music to his ears. Sanchez has faced brutal attacks for granting legal status to potentially hundreds of thousands of immigrants living and working in the country without authorization. As with most papal visits of recent decades, the clergy's sexual abuse scandals threatened to overshadow the trip. Spain's King Felipe voiced appreciation for the Pope's attempts to deal with the crisis.
Your clarity and resolve, which I also wish to acknowledge, are essential to the process of healing and making amends for the harm caused. They are essential for the victims, for the faithful, for the Church, and for society as a whole.
This time, the Vatican seemingly tried to get ahead on the messaging, announcing the pontiff would be meeting with survivors of abuse. And just one day into his visit, Pope Leo already finds himself smack dab in the middle of Spanish politics, leaving observers wondering where his address to Parliament on Monday will take him.
DW correspondent Nicole Ris is following the Pope Leo's visit for us in Madrid. Nicole, Leo's message today was quite direct. He warned against fanning the flames of polarisation. How political is that comment seen in Spain, and who in the country is likely to feel that he was speaking to them?
Well, this was a quite political start for his visit, because some of us expected him to do these kinds of remarks maybe on Monday when he will be in Congress. But nevertheless, a strong political start, as I said. He also called on abandoning what he called sterile simplifications and asked Spain specifically to take a leadership role in abandoning divisive narrative and those simplifications in Europe, to be a good example, and embracing complex social situations as well and social realities. And that said, who might have thought that he talked to them in particular? That is difficult to say, but when he was giving that speech, he was surrounded not only by the King and Queen of Spain, but also by Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez and the opposition leader Alberto Núñez Feijóo from the conservative PP party, and both of them are fierce competitors. They have been polarizing the countries, or both parties have been polarizing the countries over years with actions and words. And specifically these past weeks, as you already pointed out, there is an accumulation of corruption scandals around Pedro Sanchez that are being investigated, and he has a minority government, so he is in a quite difficult situation right now. And there is the topic of migration. Spain is in the midst of a mass legalization process that sees hundreds of thousands of undocumented migrants receiving legalized papers right now. So that has obviously caused a lot of debate here in Spain. Nevertheless, the message from the Pope is also directed at Europe and beyond the world, because not only because he mentioned it, because it's also because we see these narratives and these simplifications spreading throughout the world. So it's not only a message for maybe Spanish people or Spanish politicians who took part in that welcoming today.
Yeah, the Pope has arrived at a time when Spain is deeply divided, as you say, over migration, among many other things, corruption and political identity as well. How is his message of unity going down there? Who is listening to the Pope in a country that seems to be going in the opposite direction, Nicole?
Well, we've seen plenty of people listening to him already today out on the streets or while he was doing his rounds in the city. Of course, this message for people like you and me might be a very important message, but we also saw some political reactions already from the opposition leader, for example, from Feijóo. He posted on X, he said, the truth is always greater than us, and he's quoting the Pope by doing so. And also Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez took to the social network and he said that Spain is deeply committed to peaceful coexistence and to building bridges, and that he expresses also the hope of building bridges and continuing dialogue, well, which is something that the Pope's message is also aligns with. Still, what is interesting about this visit is also that he visits Spain, which goes the opposite direction. We just seen that these past weeks, the EU just has decided that there should be deportation centers in third countries when it comes to migrants, and Spain was the only country opposing that decision. So it seems we see a lot of alignment here between the Pope and the stance of the Spanish government. Nevertheless, this, from Spanish point of view and internal politics, when we look at unity, is maybe just merely a short break from the political turmoil that we're experiencing here in Spain right now.
DW correspondent Nicole Ris in Madrid, thank you so much.
Alana Moceri, professor at the IE School of Politics, Economics and Global Affairs in Madrid, joins us now. Good to have you with us, Alana. Now, Pope Leo seems to have hit the ground running in Spain. He's already addressing sensitive issues. Does that surprise you?
No, this was something we were aware of before he was coming here. The Pope has spoken a lot out against polarization and division and in favor of more reconciliation and dialogue. Spain is one country among many in Europe where there's a high level of political polarization. Of course, his early speeches in the day, he didn't touch on immigration, which is one of the very polarizing subjects here in Spain. But he did dive right into that subject of this kind of polarization that's happening with, when we've got, far right party, far left parties, a lot of controversy going on. Of course, Sanchez is embroiled in a lot of, there are so many corruption cases going on between both the Socialist Party and the People's Party that that is actually pretty tough to keep track of them. But it's definitely been a drag recently on Pedro Sanchez's prime ministership.
As the Pope warns against this division, this polarization, will that message actually have an effect, or will everyone just hear what they want to hear?
Yeah, it's hard to know. I mean, I think these things happen. The people of Madrid are obviously very, very excited that Pope Leo is here. This is the first visit since Pope Benedict in 2011. Spain is a historically, traditionally Catholic country. People do truly look to this Pope. But yeah, at the same time, I mean, the political divisions are there, and they do run very deep. I'm in the classroom every day. Maybe 20% of my students are Spanish, the rest are international. I see that. So I see that on a day-to-day basis teaching politics in the classroom. Just 2 days ago before the visit, we talk about immigration, which has been such a hot issue in Spain since Sanchez announced the amnesty. Recently, the amnesty that's going on right now. And Isabel Ayuso, the president of Madrid, was out saying that this amnesty just imports mass poverty into the country. Just 2 days before the Pope's visit, when we know that this Pope has been very outspoken about migration and the humanity, recognizing the humanity of these people, both with Spain, other countries, and the U.S., of course, he's been particularly outspoken.
Speaking on that, how far do you think he will take this stance? And I'm just wondering the political cost for him, coming with this message in Spain at this very moment.
It's tough. I mean, the two right-wing parties, Vox and the People's Party, right? Vox being the far-right party, People's Party being the right-of-center party, both of them draw a lot on their Christian identity. And I mean, Ayuso herself has talked about how Spain brought Christianity to the Americas. And so this is an important piece of their cultural identity here. But at the same time, yeah, with the Pope saying, hey, wait a minute, well then, we need to treat these people with some human dignity. And so it's a tough message, but it's hard to know how much it'll be received. I mean, he's certainly not stepping into the political fray or naming out parties. I mean, that's people are reading into that. And of course, it's very, very clear when he talks in favor of treating these people with dignity. I think it's easy to interpret, but at the same time, he's been very careful to really talk about the importance of, humanity, of reconciliation, of dialogue, and he's not calling out particular individuals or political parties in any way. And I think that's very, very deliberate and very, very diplomatic, which is, typical of a pope.
Right, and there's the issue of clerical sexual abuse cover-ups in Spain, which he's also addressed. How badly has that damaged the church in Spain, considering, as you mentioned, how this country has this devoutly Catholic history?
Yeah, very, very much so. It's been very damaging. Spain is a country that's very historically Catholic, but not a country that's often practicing day to day. And so I think it's been very damaging, and I know that the Pope will be visiting victims while he's here, which I think is a really important step towards some healing in this issue, which is so critical for the Catholic Church, because I think they really want to be able to move on to speaking up for people who have been disadvantaged, people who have had to flee their countries, migrants, all sorts of people that need that help. And so they're going to need to be able to move on from their own implications in these kinds of abuse.
Alana Moceri, thank you very much for your time and for speaking to us.
My pleasure.